Good news, everyone. Deebo Samuel is coming back. What's up, everyone? How's it going? I'm Grant Cohn. That's the coach. The Niners just did their end-of-season press conference. I just posted it on my YouTube channel, but don't go watch it just yet. Watch us. We'll be posting parts of it and reacting to it right here live on my YouTube channel, on Coach's YouTube channel. Make sure you follow both of us. This is powered and presented by BetUs Sportsbook and Casino. Okay, so the opening of the press conference was about Nick Sorensen, who was not fired yesterday. I asked specifically, has he been let go? Kyle Shanahan says, no, he's still under contract with the 49ers. He's just not the defensive coordinator anymore, and we're trying to find the right role for him moving forward. So here's what was asked and was said about Nick Sorensen today. Where are you at?
Can you talk about your decision with Nick and kind of what the overall plan is now for the defensive coordinator position?
First of all, it was a real tough decision. I love Nick as a person, and I love him as a coach. Still trying to hope to keep him on board in another capacity because he's a guy I don't want to lose. But just where we're at really as a team, where I think we need to go. There's a lot of big decisions ahead for us, and as hard as it is for me to come to this conclusion, but I feel there's some options out there that can end up being a better option in the situation that we're in for our team. And when really it comes down to that, the position I'm in, regardless of anything else, that's always the stuff I got to go with. So it was a real tough decision for me, and I'm still hoping that we can keep Nick here. But I do feel there's some other avenues that in the long run will be better for the 49ers.
I don't know candidates for both of those coordinator spots.
There are candidates, yes.
The
internal one, I'll give Staley a shot, just talking to him. He's been here. There'll be a lot of guys outside the building too.
Woof.
Back years, you fired your defensive coordinator after 1 year. Do you have to go back through the process of this? I know both different situations. Were there things that went wrong in the process to find these last two guys?
I don't believe anything went wrong in the process. I think I'll tell you what, it's I think more opportunistic or easier process talking about it right now on whatever the date is today. It's a little bit harder in February, which the last two were in. Being the last team to finish last year, and before that, being the second to last team to finish makes it a lot different. So there's more opportunities out there, and plan on looking into all of them.
Would experience being a defensive coordinator be important to you this time?
I think some of the stuff that, just where we're at, some of the decisions that we got to make and things like that. I think having the experience of going through this before, building things before, I think is definitely a bonus for me. It helps me with some stuff, so that's stuff I will look into. But again, you always, regardless, you don't want to put just any handcuffs on your decision. You're going to always try to figure out the best one, and so you got ideas going into that. But just being so early, I'm going to have an opportunity to talk to a number of guys too. So we'll see what that leads us to.
You've always kind of stuck to this is who we want to be defensively. Is that still the scheme you want, or are you more open to potential changes this time?
I love the scheme that we've had here. I think it's one of the hardest things to go to when you got the right guys in the right spots. But I do think people adjust to schemes, and I think you have to adjust too, depending on your personnel. And I think that was a tougher thing for us this year. Just going into the season, it was a little bit harder than past seasons. And some of the injuries we had, I think, made it really tough for Nick. And I thought he got better trying to adjust and do different things. But I do think that's something that definitely, I'm not saying you got to change schemes, but you have to have the ability, the history, and the knowledge of how to change some stuff up when you're in some certain situations. And I think that we do need that more going forward.
Under consideration for that special teams coordinator spot, or
is
Nick?
Nick would be in consideration, yes.
And just to be clear, he's been let go and you're hoping to bring him back?
I just told him he's not going to be the defense coordinator. Yeah, so he's under contract still, and I'm really hoping that he'll come back, but that's got to be something he and his family feel good about too, and the exact role that we end up carving out for him, which I'll work on here over the next few weeks.
How challenging is that?
All right, let's go. Let's stop there.
Okay.
They want Sorensen to be the next. Well, you heard. What was your reaction to those 4 minutes?
Well, off bat, he's reading the room. I think that them doing nothing was absolutely off the table. So moving on from Nick Sorensen at least draws a little bit of syntax between what we've seen on the field during the season and what they're discussing behind closed doors. So it feels good to actually see that come through to the surface. Secondly, I just don't understand what retaining him really does. I feel like he's getting a lot of, I think he's getting sympathy. A lot of grace and sympathy because of the injuries, because of him not necessarily having the experience to know how to adjust. I mean, there were questions asking Kyle, are you going to definitely start going after a more experienced DC this moving forward?
He was
Kyle
like,
he kind of danced around it, but he eventually talked himself into it with saying that, hey, he struggled with being able to adjust and he got better with once players got a little bit healthy. But the caveat to that sentence or that narrative is you don't get paid to know how to do better with players once they get healthy. You get paid to do better and to put out a product with everybody on the defense. And I think that's where we saw a little bit of the lack of performance. Lastly, why is Brendan Staley getting considered for the DC job?
Hold on. See, that's not the way I read it. That he was asked about Staley, and he's like,
I'm going to give him a
I'll
shot.
Talk to him. Yeah, I'll talk. I mean, very and when he kept saying, like, look, there's going to be some really good candidates out there that weren't available last year. Like, Staley was available late last year. I think
exactly.
He kind of like put Staley down without knowing it.
I'm not even going to
get someone else.
But I mean, in a way, you got to understand that if you're looking at Kyle and he's talking about the fact that Coach, that Nick Sorensen struggled during the year with adjustments and knowing how to do things during the season. I think that's him kind of talking about Brandon Staley, who I thought was going to be here to help us with that stuff. He didn't do a good job either. I would be surprised if Brandon Staley stays with the organization as well. Also, he did in that excerpt relay that Coach Kubiak is going to be the new OC. For me,
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, for me, I believe that that's the same thing as making Coach Forrester the run game coordinator. It's a way of giving him a raise and upping his cachet without actually moving him. I think it's kind of a lateral move, in my opinion. But that's kind of like my first impressions.
Okay, so let's talk about it from the special. I mean, we know why Nick Sorensen got fired. They think they're going to get someone else. The way they were posturing today, it made me feel like they think they're going to get Robert Saleh. But we'll see. And if they get Robert Saleh, that would be a hell of a hire. I'm just
that's a get.
But we're going to talk about the next defensive coordinator in a minute. I want to talk about special teams first because he just kind of casually said, yeah, we want Nick Sorensen to be our special teams coordinator. We don't even know if Sorensen wants to do the job. He's done it once in his life.
Yeah, why?
The most interesting part of this press conference, it was somewhere in the middle, and I don't have it queued up. You guys will go back and watch it later. Tim Kawakami asks Kyle about special teams. He's like, you haven't really been that interested in it in the past. And Kyle's like, I haven't been. And Tim's like, well, you said it. And John Lynch jumps in. He's like, let me just answer for Kyle. No one cares more about special teams than Kyle. And it's like, all right, man, like
we've been to camp.
He's literally said in the past, like, all I want from special teams is to not lose the game. I don't want to, just don't make mistakes. I'm not trying to do like fake punts or onside kicks. I'm not trying to win on special teams. I'm just trying to not lose on special teams. I want to win with the guys on offense and defense. And if you're,
he said that's why he liked Robbie Gould so much, because of the fact that Robbie Gould was so set it and forget it. He didn't have to worry about it. Go ahead.
Right. So like, if your team is loaded like the 2019 Niners or the 2023 Niners and your offense is great and your defense is great, then you don't need an edge from special teams. But that's not the team they have anymore. Right. They're going to be spending a bunch of money on their quarterback. They do need an edge from special teams. And just making Nick Sorensen the coordinator and saying, we spent a third-round pick on a kicker, that's not it.
Well, if you think about it, the only thing that I could honestly see Kyle wanting to keep Nick Sorensen for, over the fact that he's a first-time defensive coordinator who he's letting go of. He's only a one-time special teams coordinator, and he's kind of like a guy where we talked about the genesis of Nick Sorensen, and a guy that Pete Carroll was kind of grooming before earlier on, and definitely jilted his his growth for Ken Norton. So. Right about now, I don't know. I don't really see the worth in what Nick Sorensen would do in a job that he's only had 1 year, in a position where we need a serious bump in special teams. Like, we need a culture change, just not a better coach. We need somebody who's actually going to give a damn during practices. I mean, we've gone through practices and camp. Special team periods are an afterthought. It's a time for everybody to get water. They go through the motions. There's no passion or effort within those periods.
I got a question for you. Who's the best punt returner they've ever had under Kyle and John?
Not Richie James. Maybe Brandon Ayuk because they won't use him.
I mean, like they've never really tried to get a real weapon at punt return. Like Jacob Cowing falls down. They had Ray McLeod for a minute, who wasn't really a home run threat. I mean, like they haven't returned a punt for a touchdown since Ted Ginn Jr. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That it just doesn't seem like they really are looking for people who win the game on special teams, game changers. They're just looking for guys who don't mess up.
We need some beamer
guys,
ball.
don't mess up, they're gonna mess up. That's like in golf. Like if I'm like, hey, don't hit it right, don't slice it to the right because the water's to the right. Guess where it's going?
Yeah,
you can't tell your mind not to do something. You're gonna do it. You have to give a positive command, not a negative command.
Yeah, I mean, and what was even crazy is that we also had guys like Raheem Mostert was a big kick return guy, and we never really used him there, or a punt return guy.
No.
So they need to actually put the best foot forward in special teams. It's something we saw all summer. They need to change it.
Okay, so they were asked about defensive coordinator. We just heard him say they're not married to any one scheme. They love the scheme when you have the right players for it. Let's talk about that for a second. I think we know what the players that you need for this scheme. You need a killer defensive line. Four across. And I don't know how the Niners are going to put that together. They have Nick Bosa, and they have a first-round pick that they'll use on a defensive tackle or a defensive end. That's 2. I just don't see. It seems like they need a defensive coordinator who knows more than just that one scheme. And I think that's what they alluded to a little bit. Like Sorensen knew that one scheme, but he couldn't adjust because he hadn't been exposed to other schemes. So does this mean that they're just going to call up Steve Wilks and say that they're sorry?
No, they'll never do that. I mean, my biggest thing is that they seem to be really galvanized around the wide 9. And I think the reason why is, I mean, if you look at it now, Nick Bosa, a lot of what Nick Bosa brings, it really doesn't come up on the stat line. I mean, especially when you have an underperforming defensive line that he's had. So his numbers are naturally going to take a dip. But honestly, Nick Bosa is not a 4-3 defensive end. And he's damn sure not a 3-4 outside linebacker. So what are you going to do? You're going to put him you're not going to put him at D tackle on a 3-4. He's not going to stand up. So really, this defense is kind of predicated upon Nick Bosa being in the best position possible. If you change this defense, then you basically just wasted $34 million a year, because if you think that his performance is going to dip now, it's really going to dip because naturally Nick Bosa can't do much outside of that wide 9 split.
Yeah. So I think what's interesting is the questions about the D coordinator are sort of centered around scheme. Like, hey, will you consider being a little more flexible there? Like, I mean, isn't that the conversation we had 2 years ago with Steve Wilks? They tried it. They brought in someone from the outside. He had a different background. He wasn't from the Legion of Boom or Pete Carroll, and they didn't like it. As soon as they lost one game, they pointed the finger at him. So I wonder how open they really are. And I think what's interesting too is, like, I don't think they really understand what they're looking for in a defensive coordinator. I don't think it's a scheme issue at all. I don't think it's a system issue at all. I think I forgot this, but I think I had this epiphany years ago with Saleh. The reason Saleh got hired as a head coach, the reason D'Amico got hired as a head coach is that they were already head coaches. When you're the defensive coordinator on the 49ers, you have an opportunity to be the head coach as a defensive coordinator, because Kyle is an offensive coordinator. He's not really doing head coach things. And the defensive coordinator can fill in or not. And I don't think Sorensen could. I think Wilks did when he came down from the booth, and the other guys did too. And I think what they're looking for now is another guy who could sort of lead from the sidelines. I don't know. Does that make sense to you? And do you feel like there are guys out there who can fill that role?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Like literally this makes sense to us. I mean,
yeah.
Let's just take it back. All right. When Robert Saleh was here, Robert Saleh was the defensive coordinator, but he was the spiritual leader of this team. He was the guy who
I like that concept. I like that concept.
I mean, and for what it's worth, I know you guys, think, coach
soul.
is going, but he's going into Disney World with this, but it's a real thing. You gotta have some type of physical manifestation of the standard. That's the way it is, right? Like, and Kyle, a lot of what Kyle brings is his intellect. He brings his knowledge of scheme, right? But Kyle doesn't necessarily bring aura. I wouldn't, like, Kyle doesn't walk in the room and I would turn my head.
He's low energy.
Yeah, and you need a guy where you'd be crazy not to believe that the game day guy, the sideline guy, the guy that actually brought forth the effort that you saw in practice that carried over into games, that was all Robert Saleh. And he had a lot of guys singing his praises and a lot of guys kind of evangelizing that edict throughout the team. And players felt it, and it was visceral. And what happens when you get things like that is that little stuff that we see happening that kind of crept in last year and really showed itself this year, you kind of take for granted, like effort, playing to the whistle, swarming around the ball, giving your best effort on games or no matter what the opponent is. Like, we never had the playing down to our opponent issue until some of these guys left the room. And then Robert Saleh goes on, and then you get another tip of the spear guy in DeMeco Ryans, former player, hard as iron, definitely going to raise these guys up from pups. And what is he going to do? He's going to push the standard. He is the physical manifestation of playing every day, making sure that no matter win, lose, or draw, I don't care about the scoreboard. We are a certain team that plays a certain way. And then when he left, all right, and Coach Wilks came in, Coach Wilks was low energy, but to this point, Coach Wilks got dragged out of the booth, but they were almost gaslighting him into being Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans. They were talking about we're not really feeling him, and he needs to come down to the booth, and
look us in the eye.
And all of that really was, hey, they didn't want to come out and say it. I don't think guys realized it, but we're missing something from this team, and we don't. Not only are we not getting it, but everybody knows not to get it from Kyle. So you got to do it. Mm-hmm. And what happened? Wilks came down, ingratiated himself at the sideline, and what did we start seeing? Wilks pushing himself onto the field, having to be, by the end of the season, Coach Wilks was having to be held back from walking on the field. He was that animated with getting around the team. And even then, you saw cracks. You saw effort being an issue. In the playoffs, what was the number one game plan walking into the Super Bowl? No, the Lions game. What was it? Effort. Kyle wants to see a championship effort. John Lynch had to come speak to the team. That's not his job. That's Kyle's job. And now that the biggest thing that they did,
but if you want your team to play with high energy, like Kyle can't convey that message. That's got to be someone like Dan Quinn or Dan Campbell or someone else, Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans. Energy, enthusiasm.
You got to be a part of the man. You got to be the man. The times make the man, not the other way around. Dan Campbell looked crazy talking about biting off kneecaps, but look at what his team is now. He's the real deal.
It's possible that Ben Johnson is a brain with no personality and no leadership skills, and he needs someone like Dan Campbell. It's possible that, like, these types of coaches who maybe look down on each other, oh, you don't know any scheme, or you're not a leader of men, that they actually need each other and have a symbiotic relationship. Does Kyle understand that? Sometimes I think he does, and sometimes when he elevates someone like Nick Sorensen, I think he's completely oblivious and lacks self-awareness.
I just don't think he understood that how important it was or where he's going to get it from. I almost feel like he outsourced that, almost kind of like he looks at it as almost like the offensive line. Well, I understand it's there, but if I have enough to get around it, it's not that much of an issue until it comes up. But what's crazy about this year that you saw is, okay, forget wins and losses. Forget the 6-11 record. What bothers me the most about this year is that you clearly saw a different level of play from week to week. It wasn't consistent. And what really bothered you about this season is that we lost, cool, but I would have been okay with going 6-11 if I would have seen us playing the hardest we could play week in and week out. And it would have been, hey, this is just what we are, guys. We're a tired team, and finally we need a rest. But no, you saw the Chicago game. You saw the offense in the Detroit game. You saw all of us. Well, Kyle's motivated now. Now he's motivated? Now? It's like, oh, well, Brock, look what Brock did against Detroit. Well, what happened against the Rams? It's like, so there was way too much cloak and dagger. Now I want to have effort. Now I don't. Kyle finally admits, oh, we're not necessarily a good team. We don't have the players. Later, after the Bills game, it was just way too much Johnny come lately, day late and a dollar short, where you didn't see the urgency right away. The moment they knew they were bad, we would have saw ridiculous urgency. But it was almost like they were almost finding out how bad they were throughout the season. It was a slow drip.
Yeah, and so now they got to figure. To me, what's so interesting about this defensive coordinator search is like they may not realize it, but they're actually doing a head coaching search, and they're looking for a head coach of this team. They're going to keep Kyle, and Kyle is for a lot of reasons, but he's essentially the highest paid offensive coordinator in football. And you could like his offense, you could think it's a great advantage to the team, fine. But they're searching for a head coach, and the leadership supersedes the scheme because you know what the scheme is essentially going to be. So when you look at these candidates on that level, like look at Jeff Ulbrich. He just had an opportunity to show what he could do as a head coach. Robert Saleh got fired. He's gone. He gets the Jets. They go 3-9, and the defense gets worse. I'm not interested in Jeff Ulbrich.
You know what this is,
Steve
Grant?
Wilks? What?
We're on the organ donors list for a heart.
I mean, just I just want to point out, Steve Wilks was the interim head coach for the Panthers the year before he came to the Niners. He went 6-6 on the freaking Panthers. So I don't know that Jeff Ulbrich is any better than Steve Wilks. I'd rather get Steve Wilks. Like, they need Robert Saleh back really in the worst way. If they don't get him, I mean, they could go get Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley's enthusiastic. He's a lot like Saleh. He's been a head coach, but does he have like aura? I mean, he's been a failure. He just got fired. I think it's Saleh or bust, and Saleh's getting head coaching interviews. I don't know. I think Saleh. One thing that you have to understand is that, okay, Saleh is cool. I would love Saleh to come back, but is the Niners defensive coordinator job that sexy of a position? I mean, we've got overpaid players. All right, we got to go into the draft. The defensive line is done. We need to retool it and get a pass rush. We're already going to be sitting here where trying to get Dre Greenlaw back. Mooney Ward is all but gone. You're sitting here with the injured Talanoa Hufanga and a promising rookie in Malik Mustafa, but you really don't have Greenlaw.
Yeah, you really don't have a free safety. All right.
Yeah.
And you need a linebacker to come in behind Fred, and you need a pass rush on top of it. And you got Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore, but Isaac Yada made it, nor is Rock Sin. They gotta go. So, and then on top of it, you're gonna have to be gaslit into being the motivator for this team while the head coach sticks his head in the play call sheet week in and week out. So you're really gonna have to be the tip of the spear. Unofficially, though. It doesn't seem like it seems like a young man's job, like somebody who has the energy to do that. But I don't see a retread or somebody who knows their worth coming to take this job and be happy about it.
Yeah.
Like, what's Kyle going to say? Hey, I want you to come in here, and then definitely during games, that's all you. They don't talk to me. They talk to you. All right? Yeah. You hype them up. You slap hands. That's all you.
Someone quits, you got to handle that, okay? Because I'm going to be calling plays. More news. Clay Kubiak is now officially the offensive coordinator for the 49ers. I think this is interesting because Kyle Shanahan said it in a way like this changes nothing. He's essentially been the offensive coordinator for the last couple of years without the title. Okay, but then why are you giving him the title now? He's never given anyone the title of offensive coordinator until year 9 in his tenure. There's been pass game coordinators, run game coordinators, specialists, but no offensive coordinator. Kyle's still going to be calling plays. I have a theory of why this is happening now, but I'll save it. What do you think?
I think it's a lateral move. I also think it's a little bit of kind of getting some heat off of Kyle because of how the offense has been moving for a while. There needs to be somebody else with the name, but what I don't want to do is talk out of both sides of my mouth. one of the biggest things that I have said for a while is we need an offensive coordinator. We need an offensive coordinator. Now, does that mean did I necessarily say that I don't want Kyle calling plays anymore? No, right? I would be interested to know, what are the duties of Coach Kubiak now? What is being taken off of you, Kyle? Like, how is this making your job easier? That's what I would want to know. I understand, like, if you think about it, some of the greatest coaches, they never truly give up play calling duties, right? Like Sean McVay calls plays, Andy Reid calls plays, right? I wouldn't expect Kyle to just give that up. But
Andy Reid also has an offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy.
Yes, but now so does Kyle.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm willing to give him a shot. I want to see what this is now, how this looks. Will he trust him? You know?
Yeah, let's look back for a second. I mean, let's step back for a second. We got 3 new coordinators on this team. Kind of feels like what the Eagles did after they had their down season following the Super Bowl loss. They got rid of both of their offensive and defensive coordinators, and it seemed like they kind of put Nick Sirianni on notice. Like, dude, you got to fix this right now. Get whoever you want, spare no expense. You tell us, we'll get them, but you got to get this right because you lost Jonathan Gannon, you lost Shane Steichen, and you replaced them with freaking lightweights. So we'll give you a mulligan on both of them, but you got to get this right now. And the implication was, if you get this wrong, you're freaking done. So now the Niners, I mean, it worked for the Eagles. They're back in the playoffs. I think to me, that they're turning up the heat on Kyle just a little bit. Like, you need to have an offensive. I think someone sat down with them a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if it was Jed. I don't know if it was Denise or who it was, but I think they said you need all new like this coaching staff is beneath you, dude. You need an offensive coordinator. You need to focus on being a head coach. You can still call the plays, but you need to really clean house in this coaching staff. It needs to be a whole lot better.
You need to revamp. Yeah, the whole methodology needs to be revamped. You have your hands. I mean, quite frankly, I have done this before in businesses that I've ran before, where you have your hands on everything, and as a result, your standard dips because you don't have enough energy to do the job the way you know it needs to be done. And what you're really lacking is trust, and you're lacking infrastructure. And Kyle needs to start building more trust and infrastructure where it's okay if somebody doesn't get a job done. When you're not their friend, it's easier for you to move on from them. All right. So I think that he's kind of ripping the Band-Aid off in the sense of, hey, let's make some hard decisions. I really don't understand why Nick Sorensen is being considered for anything in the organization. That's the only thing that I didn't understand from the small excerpt that I heard from today. But right now, I really am willing to give the Coach Kubiak and Kyle tandem a real go, because he had Mike McDaniel, and things were going very well when Coach McDaniel was here. So Kyle needs help, So I don't expect him to give up play calling duties, but I'm excited about this. I want to see how it works out.
Here's why I'm not as excited as you. I mean, I like the idea of it, but like Kyle said, Clay's been here. He even said, like, Clay's essentially been the offensive coordinator the last couple of years, doing a great job. All right, but it'd been nice if you would have brought in someone additional to help, because it doesn't seem like it was enough this year in particular. Maybe if Christian McCaffrey's there, it's enough.
Well, now you're talking about like somebody who wants some real results. We're working with what we're working with here.
Yeah.
One thing that Kyle will do is he's always going to opt to get in a retread or somebody that's within the enclave of the Shanahan offense tree. You know what I'm saying? These guys think that they're like a part of the 13 colonies when it comes to this offensive football stuff. So they're always going to pick guys that are attached to the offense. I kind of get that.
I got one follow-up question, then we'll get to our BetUs segment and some super chats. But going back to Sorensen, going back to Wilks, really, you didn't hear it today, but Kyle really made a point of saying, well, it was tough to get the best coordinator for the job last year because they finished the season so late, and they finished in February, and a lot of the best candidates were taken. All right, then why did you fire Steve Wilks? There were a lot of missteps in 2024, but if they had just not fired Steve Wilks, kept him one more year, would they be 6-11?
No, the defense would have definitely been better. There were times during the year where we were kind of like the most vanilla defense in the NFL. There was nothing about our defense that actually tried to disguise coverages, try to help out the defensive backs in any way. There was no ingenuity with our pass rush for like 6 straight weeks. You know, there were no stunts, there was no alignment shifts, there was really no personnel packaging that you saw being put together by the defense, and we were kind of just sitting ducks. I don't think Coach Wilks would have been that tone deaf. We saw a lot of different things that he did earlier in the season to kind of put his mix onto the defense. If anything, Coach Wilks, if they would have gotten used to what we gave as far as a wide 9 perspective is concerned, Coach Wilks has he has an entire career of a different set of defense that would have been able to be implemented for us to show wrinkles along the way. One thing about this defense is that you're going to always kind of be hamstringed because they don't want to change the philosophy. So they're already set. This is my thing. Kyle is saying that, you know, the list was pretty much depleted or bare bones by the time they had gotten out of the Super Bowl. Well, just imagine how shorter the list would have been if they're only willing to get certain guys that can only work with one kind of defense. So it's a shorter list already just by what he's already setting out to do.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was such an unnecessary thing to do. I mean, yeah, you'd like to have a better defensive coordinator than Steve Wilks, but you know in retrospect you weren't going to find that guy last year. So firing him was a mistake, and it was probably an emotional one because you lost the Super Bowl and you blamed the wrong person. Maybe you bring him back this year and he's no good and you fire him now and you get Robert Saleh, but that one move I think was like the beginning of a domino effect that really hurt the team. But I can't prove it. Let's look at BetUS's betting lines for this weekend. Got some really big games. They're playoff games. The winner keeps playing. The loser is done. That's how the postseason works. Chargers are in the playoffs. Go figure. Jim Harbaugh, good coach, going against DeMeco Ryans. He used to be the de facto head coach here. Who do you like? Chargers -3 or Texans +3?
Chargers. I'm not really a believer. The Texans seem to be falling apart at the wrong part of the season. And you know what playoff football is all about? It's about who's hot now, right? So I'm going to go with Chargers.
Ravens -10.
Ravens.
Ravens -10. Can we just look real quick at these two teams' matchups this year? I'm curious because I don't remember, but I feel like the Steelers often do well. Okay, hold on. They played each other Week 11, and the Steelers won 18-16.
Steelers won.
And they played each other Week 16, and the Steelers beat the crap out of them 34-17. So, yeah. Ravens. Ravens.
Yep.
Ravens.
Yeah, they know they're going to
enough.
see him in the playoffs.
9.5 Bills over the Broncos.
Broncos.
Sean
Broncos
Payton
got a
keep it close.
defense. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They do. Eagles 4.5 over the Packers.
Yeah. Eagles.
Eagles.
Yeah, Packers are falling apart.
Bucks -3 over the Commanders.
Yeah, Baker, man. I just don't like Baker. I don't want to play Baker. I wouldn't want to play Baker in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, rookie on the road. I feel that.
Rookie on the road. I wouldn't want to play with Baker.
Dude, this is interesting. Rams Vikings to pick them. Man, that SoFi is such a bad stadium. It's so not a home field advantage. But anyway,
Matt Stafford
or Sam
Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Yeah, that's a tough one, huh? Okay, you don't have to
Not
say no
really.
more.
I'm gonna pick the Vikings.
Wow.
Yeah, the Vikings are the better team.
Yeah, but you faked me out with that one.
Yeah, I think Matt Stafford is better than Sam Darnold, but the Vikings are a better team.
Do you think Brian Flores would be a good match with Kyle, or do you think they're too similar?
Who's too similar?
Brian Flores. I know they can't get Brian Flores, but do you think Brian Flores would be a good match with Kyle Shanahan as his D coordinator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he would do what. Yeah, I think he would do well. I think he would do well with Kyle until it stopped being. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost like two rattlesnakes, and it's just like, well, they're good as long as just nobody bites one of them.
They're winning.
Yeah, like as soon as somebody realizes they're not alone in there.
All right. More news. Kyle Shanahan was asked about Brock Purdy John Lynch jumped in, talked about what an incredible player Brock Purdy is. I think we already know how John feels about him, but Kyle said he wants Brock to be his quarterback as long as he's the coach of the 49ers, which could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. But what do you think of Kyle Shanahan saying that?
I mean, I think Kyle said exactly what he had to say.
Yeah,
hold on,
pretty much.
Hold on, did I don't know what
I
that
got technical
was
issues.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Hold on.
Oh.
So, yeah, they said Kyle would be here to stay. I'll tell you this. I think Kyle's saying exactly what he needs to say right now. There's absolutely no way that Kyle needs to be saying anything that alludes to him not being behind Brock Purdy, just for the simple fact that Brock Purdy, he had a bad season. And I think it really helps Kyle. I think it really helps Kyle to be able to put as much praise on Brock as possible, because behind closed doors, I think that he knows that the organization feels that they have Brock exactly where they want him. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what he says, right? Like Brock says, I want to be here. Kyle says, I want him to be here. Like, great. Like, money talks. So if Kyle and John say, we love you so much, Brock, here's $45 million a year, that might not be the love that Brock Purdy's looking for, right? I might need a little bit more love than that. I might need $15 million a year more love than what you're offering me. So they could both posture like, I want to be here. I want him here. It's just business, and we got to come to an agreement, and it's not personal, and we both understand. But until they come across a number they both agree on, anything could happen. But
100%.
It seems like he's going to be here.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, my camera died.
What happened?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why.
Wow.
Let's keep it going. I'm working.
Sure.
Keep it going. I'm working in the background. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, I guess that's my only point. Like, until they actually have the negotiation finished, I'm skeptical, because the market is so incredible. It's $60 million a year, and the Niners don't have to pay it. I guess he'll be back. The Niners don't necessarily have to give him what the market says he's worth. Like, they had to give Brandon Ayuk $30 million a year because he proved on the market that he was worth it. He proved that the New England Patriots would pay it, the Steelers would pay it. So, I don't know. It just seems like the Niners can say as many nice things as they want. It almost feels like the nice compliments are a substitute for the money that they might be shorting him when they finally make the offer.
Definitely.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, my thing is that what is Kyle supposed to say? Honestly, what's he supposed to say? Is he supposed to say, you know what? We finally got a guy that you guys are trying to prop up as a franchise quarterback, and I finally got him exactly where I need him, because you've seen exactly how good or bad he is without all of the people around him. And I'm going to say all of the greatest things that you need to hear about him, because truthfully, behind closed doors, he knows how we feel about him. The jig is up. It's over. And I don't have any reason to sit here and bash the guy who I have squarely back under my thumb now. The legend of Brock Purdy is dead. Good. You've seen what type of quarterback he is. Now can we please get back to giving me all the power where I can put this offense in the best position it can be in? And think about that when you want to give him $60 million.
Also, they're not going to negotiate through the media. Like, there's a lot of things he could say about Brock that I'm guessing he will say to Brock's agent when they actually negotiate. I'm sure there's going to be some hard truths that Parag Marathe probably is the one who delivers. Like, hey, man, let's look at Brock's numbers in the second half this year. Let's talk about Brock's steep decline this season. And that's why we're not going to offer you $60 million a year. So the Niners can always be like, we want Brock. He's just being greedy. And Brock can always be like, I want to be here. They're just being cheap. And we'll see how far apart they really are when this actually starts.
I agree, Grant, 100%. I think that it's like, I don't know. It's like when you're in a position with somebody and you know you got them beat, but the last thing you want to do is be seen gloating, right? So you got to act like you've been there before. You got to keep a straight face. We're not going to lean into what is clearly there because really we won the war. Okay, so let's give them the battle. Let's say, what does it matter how great we say he is and how he wants to be here for the rest of I want him here for the rest of my career.
That doesn't give him extra leverage in the negotiation.
None of this is going to help him. None of it.
It's not like the agent can come to the negotiation table and be like, well, you said this.
Well, you said this.
Right
exactly.
Yeah.
The real negotiation is over. Yeah. It was this season. So
it was the Rams game.
It was So really, I think the reason why you're hearing Kyle basically be 100% behind him, Kyle even said that he thought Brock was having a great year. He said that on the radio. He said, man, I think Brock's having a phenomenal year. Like, we got our guy. And really, in a way, if you think about it, Jimmy would have been okay if Jimmy would have just understood who he was. That's why they tried to go get Trey. And that's why, because when Jimmy didn't want to play in 2020, that was Jimmy officially feeling like, I'm the quarterback of this team, and I'm hurt, and I don't want to play. And Kyle was looking at Jimmy like, dude, we passed the ball 8 fucking times last year. Do you know who you really are on this offense?
Yeah.
You've got to. Do you know what we paid you to get you out of the way?
Yeah.
You have forgotten who you are and what your true status is on this team. And I think this season kind of blooded in Brock, where it's like, great, man. So look, they still think you're great, but we got an understanding. Do we have an understanding now?
But here's the thing. We don't know that they have an understanding because, you read certain accounts on X, on Twitter. Brock has all kind of arguments in his favor that gas him up, that makes him worth more than Tua, Jordan Love, Dak, or whatever.
I'm going to tell you what goes over that, though, Grant.
Okay.
What supersedes that, Grant, is the building, the locker room.
But all I'm saying is that we can see it from the Niners' perspective, and we agree with the Niners' perspective, but there's also a Brock perspective, and I don't necessarily think he's going to see it from the Niners' perspective. I think him and his agent are digging in for a real battle here, and if he even said it in his like, aw shucks, nicey way, wants to get it done before OTA so that he can be here with the team. What is that, a threat? Are you threatening us? What are you trying to say, Brock? So let's say they don't get it done by OTAs, because the Niners have a long pattern of not getting these things done by OTAs, and he holds out. Does that mean the Niners are like, oh man, we didn't see this coming. We really didn't see this coming. You know what? We just got to sign Aaron Rodgers. It's just for 1 year though. We still want to sign you, Brock. It's just, we never thought you would have held out. We thought our offer was more than fair. You're being strange. This isn't the Brock we know. So we didn't anticipate this, but we just happened to go sign Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Let's say Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I don't believe there's a world where Brock can get in Kyle's doghouse and get out of it, especially when it comes to like negotiations. I really do believe that, even if Brock wanted to kind of play hardball in a sense and say, hey, I want to get this deal done. If I'm not getting paid, I'm not going to be here. Dude, that is not going to go over well with the guys who basically propped you up. Like when Brock first got on this team, he was only a quarterback in name and position only. It was the players around him who were assuring us that this was our guy. They basically built and put the furniture in the mansion before he was big enough to move in. And now that he's there to finally get his deal, I don't think it'd go over well in the locker room with him trying to play hardball at an elite clip, right? And for context, really, the guarantee, the money, the salary money that he gets per year is really inconsequential. It's the money that he gets on the cap. That's what I'm concerned with. Like, how much does he come off the cap? Right? You can pay him what you want, Jed, but how bad does this hurt our cap? That's what I would want to know.
There's also the potential, like, they could say to him, look, Brock, here's our offer. It's a really good offer. You should take it. You could play hardball and try to drag this out, but it's not going to go well for you. It's really not, because you have no leverage in this situation. You're coming off a really down year. We haven't even begun to get into all the different ways we think you messed up. This offer is generous, and you should take it right now. Is there a possibility that he understands that he had the worst contract season imaginable, that he flopped against the Rams, and he's just eager to sign whatever they give him in March or sooner?
I'd lose respect for him if he took it. because then that means that all the stuff that you said about being the real deal and what you believe in yourself, why not bet on yourself? Why not play out the rest of it? If the Niners gave Brock a deal like that, from a player perspective, I would look at him like, oh, so you mid.
Because what would Lamar do? If Lamar would say, "Oh, that's what you think of me? All right, well,
When
I'll
we
just
show
back
up,
you."
yeah, I'll play. I'll bet on myself, and then when I'm out on the open market, I'm gonna make you really pay. So I want to see that side. There is an element to this where you do want to see self-confidence and worth in them. I wouldn't like my quarterback to take that type of deal. Why would the Niners want a quarterback that would take that type of deal?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, you could take the extension now, coming off your worst year yet, and give the Niners essentially a hometown discount.
Right.
Or you could come back next year, bet on yourself, have a really good season with Christian McCaffrey out there, and then go to the negotiation table like at a position of strength, because he's going at a position of weakness and almost saying like, hey, I'm a swell guy. We had some good times. Don't forget him. Whereas George Kittle, they had a lot of good times with George Kittle, but he's coming to the negotiation table coming off a great year. So he actually has strength. I just feels like, again, if Brock were truly an elite quarterback and thought of himself that way, he would have no problem betting on himself and having that confidence that he could do it next year. He could bounce back next year.
Yeah, I believe that, him wanting to get the deal done, even with wow, this just came to me. Even if he does want to get the deal done, the fact that he doesn't want to bet on himself and he's so eager to get it done, even after having the season that he had this year, kind of lets me know that he's a little bit of a fraud himself. It's like, why would if I know I'm elite, think about it. If I'm an elite quarterback, I'm pissed off with this year because I played well below my standard. And I'm even more pissed off because I had the perfect opportunity to do it while all these guys around me who I believe that I've been elevating, they haven't been pulling me along. They were not here. So I could have had a chance to really show what I did. I didn't do that in a lot of important games. And now I'm being disrespected with with a deal that I don't like. Why am I being seen here trying to even go get a deal? I'd be looking at my agent like, dude, I'm betting on myself. I can play way better than what I did this year. Why don't we just run it back next year, get these guys back where we want them, and then go back in there with our pride intact and go get the deal that we deserve? But the fact that Brock wants to get this deal done now after this season, it's almost as if that he's still kind of riding off of what was supposed to be the deal before this season hit, where it's like, oh, hey, guys, you still kind of feeling this elite thing? I'm still your franchise quarterback, right? Really want to have this conversation? I just don't think if Brock was as good as he thinks he is, he would want to have a negotiation right now either. I wouldn't.
Okay, more news, not Brock related. So they asked about Javon Hargrave, and the team was like, yeah, we're gonna release him, so he has options. And, we don't want to do the whole post June 1 thing, so that he has nowhere else he can sign. And we'd love to re-sign him if he wants to sign here at a lower price and it makes sense. So they were very transparent. And I think right after that, another reporter sort of thinking that, oh, you're just gonna say you're cutting people. Like, what about Deebo? You're gonna cut him too, right? And Lynch was like, no, he'll be here. We're not just in the business of giving away good players. And I got kind of quiet, like, we're talking about Deebo Samuel, right? We're talking about Deebo Samuel. So Deebo's coming back, not in the business of giving away good players. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't understand it. It's not the fact that he had a bad year, but it's that he toyed with us. He turned it on in certain games and he turned it off in certain games, which is even worse. I think that Deebo Samuel is a representation of a lot of things that are wrong with his team. I think that he's entitled. I don't think that he plays hard all the time. But I feel as though that he never misses an opportunity to take like a photo op or like a leadership position in the team. And, I just don't see the worth in $28 million a year. I mean, he's going to be a $14 or $15 million cap hit this year at 28 per. And then we're going to pay Brandon Ayuk $30 million next year. So, we're looking at over $50 million in wide receiver money in the wide receiver room out of two guys. Just from a performance standpoint, I don't necessarily think that Deebo's like a top receiver. And really,
You think? I mean,
I'm
is he even
like,
top
Greg,
three on
like,
this
what do you
team?
want? What do you want me to like? Those who have been on my channel know exactly how I feel about Deebo. What do you want me to say outside of just being ridiculously like, just
I
like,
don't know what to say.
I don't want to
know
put
what
him
to say.
down, bro. Like, what do you want me to
I
say,
know.
bro?
No, I'm looking here at over the cap. Like, you're right. His cap number is almost 16 million next year. But if they were to cut him or trade him before June 1, the dead cap hit would be 31.5. So maybe they're looking at it as like he'd be twice as expensive to not have him than to have him. But to me, like, the problem with having Deebo Samuel isn't just that he's like your fourth best wide receiver or your like worst running back. It's that like he wants the ball and
he gets the ball.
Yeah, and he's like, not only does he want it, he gets it, and he seems like a problem in the locker room. It seems like it would be like that stupid cliche addition by subtraction. I think they'd be better just not having him in the locker room, on the field. That's the problem to me. And the fact that they still think that he's good, I hope this is posturing and they're looking at it as like, we could trade him after June 1 and some team. But it's like, what are you going to get, man? What are you really going to get for Deebo Samuel at this point?
Well, you do know, man, if they let him go,
not good.
If they let him, he's got like he's void year he's got void years all the way out to like 2029. Mm-hmm. So if they let him go, all of his void years come in that one fiscal year of the season, which is going to hurt us. I think that letting go of Deebo is signifying kind of like the in case of emergency break glass here moment.
Yeah.
Like if you let go of Deebo, then you might as well let go of everybody who needs to go. Because his dead cap hit is so large on top of the Eric Armstead post June 1 cap hit that you might as well just rip the Band-Aid off and start letting go of everybody. Let Juice go, just let everybody go.
I got a question too. Like, I think we saw where this offense is going. They don't need him to play running back anymore. He's not good at running back. No. Patrick Taylor Jr. is better than him.
Yes.
They don't really need him to play wide receiver anymore. Ricky Pearsall is better than him. Jawan Jennings is better than him, and Brandon Ayuk is coming back. So yeah, you could be the kick returner. Other than that, I don't really know what the role is for him. And knowing Deebo, I don't think he's going to accept that. I don't think he's the team player who's going to be like, you know what? I'll be the next man up. I'll be the quiet leader who's trying to help from the bench. Like, if he's really going to get phased out of the offense, I think part of the reason they gave him so many touches all year, even though he didn't deserve it, is to keep him happy. And if it's official that he's no longer getting those like placate touches anymore, then maybe he doesn't want to be here. I'm just speculating. But is it possible if they're like, hey, Deebo, we have no role for you coming up next year, that he would say, okay, well then I'm he's already requested a trade once.
Yeah. Well, you already seen what an offense with Deebo Samuel in his rightful place on the offense looks like. Just go back to the last game against the Lions. That's what you're going to get out of Deebo Samuel on offense if you highlight Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, and George Kittle, right?
And then McCaffrey's coming back. Like, it's even less for Deebo. Yeah.
Right. If you run the offense naturally and guys who run primary routes who are going to get open, that's what the offense is naturally going to look like, and it's going to be even worse when CMC comes back on the team. And God forbid if they got, who Deebo's role really is? Deebo's role is really in an H-back and then a number 2 tight end, because they don't have one. Like, if you could outsource all of his productivity to an H-back and a number 2 tight end, and you'd be pretty good. Okay, you'd be okay.
I would disagree. To me, at this point in his career, he is a core special teamer. And it's funny, the Niners need to get better on special teams. Maybe that's why they want to keep Deebo Samuel. Because
so you're calling Deebo Josh Cribbs? He's Josh Cribbs?
Cordell Patterson.
He ain't. That's disrespectful to Cordell Patterson.
You were disrespecting Josh Cribbs.
Okay, and Josh Cribbs is from DC.
Josh Cribbs was one of the better returners I've ever seen. That guy was incredible.
But okay.
Didn't he play quarterback in college or at high school? Like, Josh Cribbs was a great
played quarterback. He was a dog. I think he played at Toledo.
Uh-huh.
Did he go to Toledo?
You thought I didn't know about Josh Cribbs.
I thought you had. I tried to throw him on you. I did.
Yeah. So if he wants to maybe he wants to return punts next year. Maybe he could do that.
Yeah, this is a much fruitful conversation than, because there's not really that much you can say positive. And I don't want to, beat a dead horse or beat a dead Deebo. So
I actually want to give Deebo some praise for a second. This was on, I saw a clip. It might have been on Deebo's podcast. I don't know where it was on, but Ricky Pearsall was talking about getting shot. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned that Deebo Samuel was the only one that came and saw him and on the team. Mm-hmm. And that Deebo was hanging out with Ricky's family and that it means a lot. It meant everything to Ricky and that he'll remember that forever. We talked about it at the time, how it was such a missed opportunity for Kyle and the players not to go. And I know you can't bombard an emergency room with 90 people or whatever, but Kyle needed to be there. Deebo, and look, I didn't know Deebo had it in him, man. Sometimes I think Deebo is just the most shallow diva, but like, damn, Deebo, that was credible, man. It just shows you like you really don't know these players. They project something, and you might like what they project or not. I don't really like the way he projects himself, but there must be a real decent guy down there. Wow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's something where, as far when off the field stuff happens, I do believe that that's kind of like off limit stuff. We poke and we fun about like Cabo Click and things of that nature. But for the most part, we really do leave them alone when it comes to like off field issues, right? Pretty much everything that we cover the guys on and the team happens literally on the field or in the building. Outside of that, what their lives are like, or the speculation that we may have, or the things that we may see from afar, it would be really prudent for you to keep it there, because like this, you don't know who the friends are on the team, who have real connections on the team, certain things and how people reach out to each other in a real way. And I feel as though that's something that kind of made our bond stronger, because we actually know each other in real life. And when you see those things, it can be easy to think you understand a relationship or the dynamic of two people's relationships from a distance. But I feel like this is one of those times where you just get reminded that, guys are real people too. And just because of how a guy goes about his business on the field or in the building has nothing to do with his character outside of it.
Yeah. So Deebo, salute, respect.
Good on you, man.
Didn't know. Yeah, that was really, to hear Ricky say that was I'll always remember that about Deebo. Because I think George Kittle is like the ultimate in terms of professionalism and maturity and character. He wasn't there. And I'm not saying I think less of George because of that, because I don't know if I would have went. Who knows? I wasn't in that situation, but Deebo went.
But I feel like you're bringing that up just to speak to what people think they know, right? Not the fact that George is a bad person, but
no.
But you could
George will be there.
Exactly how you would deduce from thinking the character of the players that, hey, who would be the first person in the situation to be there? Oh, it definitely would be George. You know what I mean?
Fred Warner. No, Deebo.
Yeah. So, and that's a complete, juxtaposition to how we call the team. So, you love to see it, man. Great on Deebo. I still think we should cut you just to show you how balanced I could be. But great, Deebo. I respect you. You gotta give it both sides.
It's so complicated, right? Because Deebo was the one who put his hands on Tabor Pepper and antagonized Jake Moody, but at the same time, he was there for his wide receiver who got shot in ways that no one else was there. So complicated. Still got to go though. Thank you very much, Deebo, for all your contributions. Let's hit 18 super chats in 2 minutes. No, more than that. Juan Carlos Montano says, I'm going to miss watching Coach rage in the watch party and rushing to see Grantavius instant reaction. Keep it trill. Better duo than Rice and Montana.
I got something.
Yeah.
I will be calling the playoffs for this season. So the live watch parties, the watch-a-thon is back. We're here. We about to do all of the games, guys. Look out for the thumbnails. I will be here for the live watch show party. So we're riding it all the way out to the Super Bowl, dog. Let's go.
Don't mind me saying, Coach called me on the phone like 3 hours ago, and he was like, yo, I got a question for you, man. What do you think I should do with the playoffs? These watch parties have been really good. What do you think I should do? Should I do them for the playoff games? I was like, is this a real question? Like, yeah, absolutely, dude. It's a freaking watch-a-thon. So you guys got to be watching that. I'll be watching that. I don't think anyone else is going to be doing it. So it's going to be cool stuff. Everyone else is going to be doing it once Coach is getting 8 million views. But yeah, way to do
It's
it, man.
on.
Danny D says off to a good start. Moody, Deebo, and Juice are next. Yeah, I don't know about that. Mark Lamar says an OC who can't call his own plays. Kyle Shanahan arrogance. Now, to be fair, I don't think Matt Nagy's calling plays for the Chiefs.
Yeah. I think
yeah.
there's a world like, who's the guy? Bieniemy never called plays, and he was Andy Reid's OC for years. So think of it as just more of what offensive coaches do, right?
Yep.
More offensive coaches are going to they're going to call the plays. That's kind of Sean McVay calls plays. Andy Reid calls plays. Doug Peterson calls plays. So it's just kind of what they do.
And again, coming back to my little conspiracy theory, I think I think someone had a talk with Kyle, not to say we're firing you, but to put a little bit of pressure, because all of a sudden he went from giving Deebo Samuel hella touches to Ricky Pearsall getting a lot of targets. There was a little bit of a switch.
Yes.
I want to say with 2 games to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone said, Kyle, you're going to be getting new coordinators this offseason. You're going to be focusing more on your head coaching responsibilities, and you're going to be playing these young guys a little bit more.
100%. The Lions game was more, it was like motivated my ass. Somebody talked to Kyle about, hey, man, you need to put your best foot forward with literally everybody on this team, especially that offense. Well, enough of doing it your way. It's like
6 points against the Rams. I could see there has to be a meeting, a freaking, probably not a Zoom meeting either. Moises Rosales says, if Kyle Shanahan gets mad at Kawakami for that question, imagine if GC asked LOL. He didn't seem to get mad today. It seems like I asked 3 or 4 questions. He was cool with me. I don't know. Kyle Shanahan.
I wanted to talk about that though.
He didn't get fired.
Speaking of being talked to, Kyle was very attentive and very open, and I found that press conference to be very delightful from Kyle. He was open. He was clear. He gave context to how things were. I really like that the demeanor from Kyle. We've seen much worse.
Yeah, he did seem a little humbled for sure. El Cortez,
he looks rested.
Man, it seems rested. That's interesting. That's interesting. Man, it sounds like they plan to run it back again. Well, we'll see. They got to make a big hire at defensive coordinator. Can't get this wrong. Kenny 757 says just wanted to show some love. Also, cut Moody, please. There was no.
Was there any Moody questions?
No. Drewish guy says, what y'all think about Captain Lou Anarumo? He just got fired as a defensive coordinator. I don't know. I think they're not going to get him. I know he's had success against the Chiefs. The Niners aren't really at the Chiefs level right now. They were 1-5 in their own division. Harris says retaining Deebo sums up this regime. 0 growth. Yeah, but
I want to see how they're going to use
special teams coordinator. Mitty Sohn says, "Why do I love you?" I don't know. It's good. That's a better question for you, Mitty. But I appreciate it. Mitty Ruben Marquez says, "I am sick and tired that players take the team hostage during the offseason. Bring Cousins now so Brock knows his place." Brock is Brock going to have the heel turn where all of a sudden he's like, you know what? Show me the fucking money.
But this is what's wild though, is that this comment constitutes that the Niners know that Brock isn't as good as he is.
They're like, oh, you
Brock
like the way I play
stays in his
quarterback for you?
place.
You like what I do? You like my leadership? Fuck you. Pay me.
Yeah, fuck you, Kyle. It's time, baby.
Oh, you
it's
like
time.
what I can do in your system? Fuck you. Pay me.
Yeah. Hey, John. You think I'm a fucking leader now? Hey, Trent. I want the fucking boombox. It's mine now. And we're turning that shit to Kenny Chesney, goddammit. Let's go. There's a new sheriff in town.
Stephen Draper.
Everybody's fucking line dancing out to the goddamn games.
Give Purdy the Jordan Love prove it deal first, says Stephen Draper. Frank R says, how much does Darnold's eventual market contract factor in Brock's negotiation? A lot of variables for Sam's contract floor, playoff win, Super Bowl loss, win. How much, it's an interesting question. How much does Darnold's eventual market contract factor into Brock's negotiation? Sure. Like if Brock gets signed first, if Darnold gets signed first, does it sort of set the floor for whatever Brock would ask for?
Yeah, I think no. I don't know. In a way,
no, I don't know.
Yeah, in a way, it would be Sam. You know, he is a quarterback, but I think that attaching yourself to a guy who got it done in 1 year will be kind of cheap in a way of like, hey, well, you see what Sam got, you know? I don't know. The quarterbacks play like the rest of the position game where you know how like Trent literally wanted to be the highest paid left tackle, so he got like $1 more. Like, you know how Brandon Ayuk basically held the entire organization hostage due to, you know what I did, Grant? I'm sorry, but I gotta watch Swearing, and you got me in my bag, bro.
I'm sorry.
You got me going.
I instigated you.
You gaslit me. You curse lit me, bro. So
you're like, I've been going cold turkey. It's been
I've been
3
going
weeks.
so good. I've been going so good. Yeah. You put a couple of curse words out there, and I just took it hook, line, and sinker. I was like, I've been dying to say fuck all week. Let's go.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do better too, guys. Sorry. I just couldn't help it. We're in the super chats part. I'm not even cut these parts up. Moises Rosales says, lose respect for Brock Purdy for taking a bag. Ha, 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 ha. This is why I watch GC, Jesse, but not Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, Moises. Well, I don't think Coach watches you either, Moises. Double B Studio says, are they considering all of Deebo's drops to pay Purdy? I don't know. Juan Solo says, will SF be able to keep both Kittle and Warner? Yeah, probably, but not Greenlaw. I doubt it. David Kendall Jr. says we will never win a Super Bowl with Kyle. All caps, $5. I feel it, man. I feel it. City Bird says Deebo is Percy Harvin and or Tavon Austin. Was Deebo?
Nah.
Deebo is like if Percy Harvin ate Tavon Austin. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Deebo is way bigger than he used to be. I'm sorry. But it's just muscle. Double B Studio says Deebo should be O-line, diet coach, weight maintain. Yeah. Juan Carlos Montano says, let's mother truck and go watch party featuring Cohn. Yeah, you should have people just like make celebrity.
You could pop in. Yeah, dude. I love that. You want a coach cast? You got a coach
on
cast.
My phone.
Yeah, I'm a coach cast you, bro. I got you.
I love that. Double B Studio says, need to find Chris Borland linebacker to replace Greenlaw. Chris Borland, where is he now? Meaty McMeatface says, if Kubiak is a true OC, this will allow for Kyle to be more the CEO rather than just play caller designer. We're going to see Kyle let his hair down a little bit and be more of a motivator. Can't wait to see it.
True.
Meaty McMeatface. Agree. Boxing fan says, is there even an OT worth drafting at 11? You tell me. I'm hearing no.
Well, yeah. I don't like the kid out of Texas, but I love the guy out of LSU. Right now,
I heard his little spiel about offensive linemen.
Yeah, about basically saying
I love that.
You know, and I love that. What I loved about it.
If the guy across you has 1 sack a game, 12 weeks, he's a top 5 pick. If I give up 1 sack a game, 12 weeks, I'm working on Amazon. It's like, damn.
Hey, man, and it's the truth, bruh. Like, and I love, and like, you know what I loved about him is he started off. Will Campbell. He started off with, look at my first play. Look at my first play when I started.
Smashed.
I got ran. My face ran through. I mean, this is a guy that I really like, but I love Will Campbell. I'm not a big Kelvin Banks Jr. fan, but Will Campbell would be a guy that at 11, he's a get. But honestly, it would be Trent's replacement. He'd be Trent's replacement. 6'6", 330, runs a 5'2". He's not as athletic as Trent, but he's nasty.
Real quick, someone asked Kyle and John about Trent today. Said, is there any possibility that Trent won't be here next year? And they said, absolutely not. But, you know, I just want to point out that when Joe Staley retired, the Niners kept that a secret for a while. So they could find his replacement during the draft without people knowing they needed one. So something to keep in mind. Citybird says, is there a level of disrespect when it comes to contracts if you are not a top pick? All the quarterbacks that got paid were drafted in first round mostly. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I don't know. You know what it is, too? I don't think that sometimes narrative matters, too. Some organizations can't be seen disrespecting quarterbacks because of what they mean to their teams. So some organizations are kind of like hamstring where they're there is no level of disrespecting because you can have everybody feeling like, well, if you're going to do the quarterback this way, shit rolls downhill. You know, it can happen to anybody. So I don't know. I'm not a big proponent of paying quarterbacks, though, honestly. I think a lot of them get paid that never fill out to what their money is.
Double B Studio says, years ago, I bought mugs and a Cohn Zone shirt. I wore to games on Sunday. Will you ever make more merch? I don't know.
You made merch?
I did a couple years ago. I did. It was
You got
hard.
any laying around, bro?
I do. I can get you. I can hook you up.
Yeah,
Moises Rosales says, low, I still respect coach's grind. Just disagree on the respect thing. Niners shouldn't pay BP, but have egg on their face from BA, Deebo, and Nick Bosa. They shouldn't cave to the first guy they shouldn't pay. They shouldn't cave to the one guy they shouldn't pay. Should not cave. Agree with that. Official BNA Music 88 says, with Kubiak calling plays, Kyle got to work on his hermisms and get used to biting kneecaps. Kubiak will not be calling plays. I asked. That was another thing I wanted to know. And he's like, no, I'm still calling plays. But it just seems like if things go poorly, that could be the next thing that gets taken away from Kyle. Like,
yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
But
this is it.
I don't think he would. I don't think there's a world where Kyle believes that he can coach a game without calling plays. What would Kyle look like without calling plays during games?
He would just stand there and have nothing to do. Can I just say something, though? Like, we're on the West Coast, and it's really nice over here, and everyone's being, kumbaya. But it just seems like this is the West Coast Eagles in the sense that everyone knew Nick Sirianni was on the hot seat going into this year. Everyone talked about it. People were dancing on his graves, making fun of how he had to get all these new coaches and how the Eagles kind of like clipped his balls a little bit. I mean, sorry, but they kind of did, right? Like, they kind of emasculated him in front of everyone. He got
called into the principal's office for sure.
Yeah, and it was very brutal, and it was in a very Philly way. And like over here, it's not like that, but in the sense, like the same thing just happened. All new coordinators. Now you have to have an offensive coordinator for the first time. Oh, Kyle just had an epiphany. He wants an offensive coordinator. Like, it seems like they turned up the heat on him a lot. He got talked to. I'm not saying he's on the hot seat, but it's for sure warmer than it used to be, than it's ever been, I would have to say. And if he wants to mess around and find out with another 6-11 season, he could try, but it may not go so well. I think he is on the Nick Sirianni warm seat.
Bro, we know what this is. You know the kid when you were in we were in grammar school, the class clown who wore cool clothes and basically sat in the back and had a good time all school year and was a menace, inattentive, but always the jokester, too cool for school. And then the first quarter of report cards come out in November. And then everybody goes home for Thanksgiving. And then you come back, and for some reason, the mischief kid is wearing an Oxford shirt and khakis to class. And it looks like he's wearing a uniform. Why is he sitting in the front row all of a sudden? And then you know that parent-teacher conferences happened a week ago. And somebody had their entire plan screeched to a halt. And now there's peace in the region. And Kyle looked like he got his hair cut. His beard looked shaped up. He was cogent. He had bright eyes. He looked like he was listening to every question. He didn't seem annoyed, didn't shift in his seat, answered every question to its full. And even when old Kyle was just about to creep out, Uncle John came in and said, Kyle, you're doing a great job. Calm down. Let me come in and speak. He loves special teams.
Don't get defensive.
Yeah.
I got this. Yeah. What did we talk about getting
Exactly.
defensive? What did we say about getting defensive?
Come on. We talked about this, Kyle.
We practiced. We role played. I was Grant. You were Kyle.
Yeah, it's our first time out. I know it's rough, buddy. We're almost home. We can do it.
Easy Tino says, with 2 elbow problems that have led Brock and have held Brock out of games and those nerve stingers, how could we not bring in a big time veteran quarterback? Well, I just want to point out that, look, it's just odds makers. I don't know if they have sources, but the Niners have plus 300 odds to get Aaron Rodgers. And the only team with better odds is the freaking Raiders, who freaking stink. So I don't know. If Purdy wants to drive a hard bargain, the Niners could go trade for Rodgers and Devontae Adams and give him Deebo.
You just be saying stuff. No way. There's no way, dog. He's staying.
It's an option. It's good to have options. Yeah, he's staying.
Nah, Deebo just locked in.
He hasn't been locked in since.
No, money wise, there's nowhere. It's it.
Maybe that's what
it.
he was talking about when he was trying to slap Jake Moody. Lock in.
Lock in.
Money-wise.
Yeah.
Shyla Q says, "Do you have your draft position want list?" Not yet, but I will. It's a good question.
Shyla asks amazing questions. No, not yet. I have half of it done. She's like, yo, Shyla brings the noise, bro. Like, she has really good questions.
I expect them to go defensive line because they've always wanted a dominant. They've never wanted a dominant offensive line. That would be a philosophy change, and they don't seem to make big philosophy changes here. So they want a dominant D line. They clearly don't have one. They have They have the 11th pick. You know, they've spent multiple top 12 picks, 15 picks on defensive linemen. I mean, and even before them, they drafted Buckner, they drafted Armstead. So yeah, I would expect a D tackle too. If they could get a super premium edge rusher, sure. But edge rushers are like easy to find. Really good 3-down D tackles are not easy to find.
Yeah,
so I think
3 techniques, nose tackles, inside linebackers. Those are really hard to get. Once you get them, they're kind of much there for a while.
I mean, they paid freaking Hargrave like $84 million, and he couldn't stop the run. He was like a one-dimensional player, and they still thought he was worth 20. You know, they get a guy.
When we should have known. We should have known then that it was like we're reaching.
Yeah,
we're reaching.
I still think the Niners, one of their biggest mistakes was getting rid of Buckner, but I don't know. That's old news. Double B Studio says, when I watched your after game review, I could see my seat in the background. Did you see the Cardinals fan pelvic thrust cross me on the stairs? No. I was just chilling when the pick six happened. That's hella funny. Just chilling.
You got the pelvic thrust.
Oh, look. It's 2:25 on the West Coast, 5:25 on the East Coast. I got to get back and stream all night. I'll be doing more streaming. This is my last time coming down to Santa Clara till the draft, I want to say. So kind of interesting. The Niners scapegoated Sorensen, and well, they didn't even scapegoat Sorensen. He's still around. It was all Schneider's fault. And now Sorensen's going to fix special teams, and it's going to be cool. So I'm satisfied. I heard what I wanted to hear. Niners are good. So it's official. The scapegoat of this season was who? Because we always come up with the scapegoat. We thought it was going to be Brock. It wasn't Brock. I think it wasn't Brock because Brock scapegoated himself. He played so bad that the Niners have no choice but to love him because it's like, we have you right where we want you. Yeah. I mean, it's Sorensen, but like they know that it's Sorensen and they're trying to make it look like it's not Sorensen because they feel like, so that they're like, no, we're going to keep him. We really like him. It's just that he sucks as a defensive coordinator, but we really like him. So it is Sorensen. It's Schneider, but it's Sorensen. I mean, but I do think really the fact that Kyle had to name an offensive coordinator means that he finally, maybe privately and internally, had to take a little bit of heat himself. It kind of was publicly. Me. It's kind of like somebody farted and it's like, who was that? I was like, well, anyway, tonight we're moving on. I'm not going to say it at the press conference because it was me. Between us, it was definitely me. Worst adversary says, "Are you guys excited to draft another round 1 receiver?" I'm super excited. Love hearing them talk about their problems and still not address them. I think they're going to take a D lineman, man. I don't have a problem with them taking a receiver because they need one. We don't have an X. They've never taken a receiver with a top 20 pick, though. They won't. That's cool, but look at it this way. Jawan Jennings was elevated to our X once Brandon Ayuk was hurt. That's because Deebo Samuel couldn't do it, right? It should have been Deebo Samuel, but it wasn't. All right, so right now, we're left with Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, Deebo Samuel, and Jacob Cowing. Like, that's our receiving core. Yeah. That ain't it. I mean, well, it's a hell of a receiving core if you go 11 personnel, but we'll see what Ayuk is when he comes back, but that's your X. Jennings a hell of a slot receiver, and I think Pearsall's a Z. And you got Deebo Samuel on the bench doing nothing. I think that's a great spot for him too. So I feel like with those 3 playing and Deebo not playing, you got a good foursome there. I mean, I can't think of a wide receiver I'd rather have not play more than Deebo Samuel. So I think that's a good spot for him. Yeah, he's just so good at not playing. Robert Kennedy says if we don't fix the O-line, it'll be the same old thing. Always the bridemaid trying to catch that bouquet. Time for the bar. Well, here's my problem though. If they spend that 11th pick on an offensive tackle who's not worth it, then you got the McGlinchey issue again. They took McGlinchey over some serious players, and he's no longer on the team. So best player available at pick 11, you're thinking we just might get a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So don't pass on a Hall of Famer because he's not playing the particular position you think you need at that exact moment. He's a Hall of Famer. Don't
need
get
more
in-law.
Yeah, we need more young elite players. We don't have enough young guys that are the best players on this team. And that's why our core was so important in years past, because they were the best players on our team, but they were also some of the youngest players on our team. That needs to change. Yeah. So best available in the first round.
All right, we're sliding up out of here. Coach, thanks for giving me an hour and 20 of your time. Didn't mean to take that much, but I always appreciate your generous. Dude, make sure you guys all subscribe to his YouTube channel. It had 3,000 subscribers at the beginning of the season. Now it has 20. He's taking off. He's taking over one city at a time. Remember when Akon was like really famous and everyone liked Akon when he kind of sounded like Kermit the Frog a little bit?
I think Akon was like for college. Like,
oh yeah,
I never heard Akon in like a casual setting. It's either been in a bar, a club, a party, a kickback. I've never casually listened to Akon.
No, I only really heard Akon in my fraternity. Shout out to
Akon is almost like something you don't buy because you're always going to get it on tap anyway. Like that type of music. Like something that you don't.
Like if I were to like play Akon for my 14-year-old nephew and be like, listen, you don't really understand, but in 2006, this was the biggest singer on the planet. He'd be like, what? His voice is objectively awful. I can't tell you what my nephew would say, but that's what I would think he might say. But if I were to play him T-Pain and be like, this dude, what do you think of him? I think he might feel like T-Pain wasn't appreciated enough in his time.
All of those guys were club guys. I mean, T-Pain was a bop. Locked Up was a bop. T-Pain was a bop.
So much talent. The thing about him is he kind of popularized the whole auto-tune thing, but he didn't need it. Because anyone that got his second album, as I did, understood that front to back, he's a good singer, man. From Tallahassee. One of my favorites. I love T-Pain. T-Pain. He made that album with T-Wayne that never came out called T-Wayne. So good.
How do you know this?
Because what do you think I was doing at UCLA? You think I was...
I wasn't a big T-Pain guy, dog.
I love T-Pain. I unironically love R&B. So
I love R&B.
Yeah.
But like R&B, not pop.
Why are you taking shots at T-Pain on my show?
I mean, R&B, T-Pain's cool. T-Pain is cool. He's cool. Auto-tune, cool. I like auto-tune. It had its moment. It had an era.
Yeah, because of him. I agree. Auto-tune, when there's like a new song and it's like Lil Baby rapping in that same flow with auto-tune, kind of mumbly. It's like in 2025. Are we still doing that? Sir.
Nah. I mean, the best music that I listen to right now is I listen to a lot of R&B, like slow music, like good music. Like, you like her?
Yeah.
You don't know who her is. Do you listen to her? Oh!
No. And that'll wrap up our show. Thank you very much, everyone. Coach is having technical issues.
It died at the very last second. We're good.
I'll be back later on tonight. Stay tuned. The Niners are doing things, guys. Making moves.